Hi, I'm Allison Arngrim. This is the Allison Arngrim Show. I am Allison Arngrim, although some of you may know me as Evil Nellie Olson. But tonight, I'm Allison Arngrim, and it's the Allison Arngrim Show. And here on the Allison Arngrim Show, we talk about things that make us feel good. The movies and the television shows that made us feel good, and the people who made them. And people who are doing things now to make the world a better and more interesting place. And yes, I have someone who is all of these things and so much more. And she's been on the show before, and her daughter's been on the show. And you all know, because I've been telling you all week, she's coming back, she's coming back, she's coming back, because she has yet another book and like 9 movies coming out, because she's everything. She is, as we say, author, actress, queen of all scream queens, and the hardest working woman in show business, Dee Wallace. Hey!
Wow, what an intro. Thank you, baby cakes.
Oh, you are fabulous. Now, okay, as you said, you just like blew in from Virginia. You were up at all hours last night and you're like wearing somebody else's makeup. Basically, it's one of those days.
Yeah, it's one of those days, and somehow they all come together anyway. when you have to grab and rob and dance, and somehow the day just always comes together anyway. I think the most important word of the year, of the century maybe, is adaptation.
Yes. And you always look good. You look amazing, especially for like, oh, I didn't get in until 3:30. So I'm like, okay, we should all look so good. You do. Adaptation, it is. I've been thinking about that so much because, obviously when everything closed in March of 2020, I was booked through like October, and then I wasn't. And I said, what am I going to do? And, my husband, Bob, he said, well, you'll think of something. You always think of something. And then I started reading Little House books online, and one thing led to another. And next thing I know, I'm doing shows online. I'm doing this online, and I adapted and I learned to do like all this stuff. I didn't know what a Zoom call was or a Facebook Live to save my life. And next thing I know, I'm like, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop. Yes, of course. I'm online 24 hours a day. What, why do you ask? So yes, I adapted, and I do all this crazy stuff now. It's wild. I can't believe it.
I'm with you. And I think in that respect, the pandemic kind of served all of us in a way. If we seize the moment, Allison, you've got to seize the moment. So those of us that did expanded. I remember I got up one day and they said, well, all the studios are closing down. And I went, how am I going to make a living? And my channel said, the studios aren't your living, your consciousness is your living. Get up every day and say, what can I create?
Yes.
So one day I got up and said, what can I create? And they said, write the book, not a book, the book. And one day I got up and they said, make a short horror film for all your fans. So, I just followed the muse, and it ended up being 2 years of extreme creativity for me.
I guess it's what happened here. A lot of my friends were really stuck. We're also home, and I can't tell you how many friends I bought ring lights like this. Where I have the ring light, I bought. It was the Christmas gift that year. I was like, who needs a ring light? And I was encouraging my friends, go get a backdrop, get a thing, do shows in your living room. And I saw some of the comedians I know did some of the funniest stuff in the world out of their living room. They're just killing me. And I came up with stuff, all these backdrops. You can order a backdrop of anything on Amazon. I got Christmas, I got Halloween, I got right.
That's what this one is. Yep.
You can get everything. And it was so funny because when it started, I didn't know what to do to create. I said, well, I should go back and reread the Little House books, the Little House on the Prairie books. I'd read them all before. I hadn't read them in a long time. I should read them in order and see how the characters develop. That'd be like a fun mental exercise, something to do. And then I said, well, everybody else is stuck at home and they're all bored and desperate for something to do. I'll go on Facebook and we'll all see what happens. And I went, okay, hey, I'm going to read Little House in the Big Woods. Well, I'm almost at reading 600. I'm up to reading number 597. I haven't actually started.
Oh,
I read Read all 9 of Miss Laura's books, and then I read all the books about her and the historical books and the Prairie Girl bio, and then of course books by her daughter Rose. And then I read books inspired by Laura, and then I read some Wizard of Oz, and I read some Anne of Green Gables. Then I went back, read the whole Little House 9 book again, and then we read some more stuff. And I just did Little House in the Ozarks that were articles Laura wrote for the paper, and now I'm reading Archie and the Hittable. And I said, guys, I'm going to take a break at 600, not that permanently. I will come back, but we will take a break at 600 readings. And they're like, okay, okay. And now I'm doing cooking videos. And in the midst of this banana set, first of all, people loved it. They logged on by the thousands. They were like, thank you. This apparently is what we wanted. We didn't know.
Yeah.
Like it made me happy. It made other people happy. And it meant I got up every day and I put on some makeup and I picked out a nice shirt. And I didn't say, well, I'm just going to sit here and not cut my hair and sit in my sweats. I'm like, I'll dye my own hair if I have to. I can do my own nails. And it's like the house turns into a beauty parlor. And I just like went, I'm just going to do this thing. And it was so good for me and so good for everyone else. And then the phone began to ring. Oh, that show we canceled. Well, we're doing it online. Would you like to do it that way? And suddenly everything. And then, hey, that movie, I said I was going to put you in the sequel of that film I made. Yeah, well, we're making it. I go, how the heck are you making it? Well, we're out in Utah. And I guess we'll shoot a lot outdoors. And we'll send you the test kit. And you want to come go be in a movie? Yeah.
Yep.
And so it was like the camera was in, New Jersey. It was, and we did it. It was like,
Well, but that's the way energy works,
yes.
If you continually keep creating and you're happy, right? And you're loving what you do, things magnetize to you. Literally, you just pull them in.
Well, I know action leads to action. Any action leads to action.
Yeah.
I mean, my friends and I used to joke when I was young, if somebody suddenly cleaned their apartment, we'd say, what happened? You empty an ashtray? Because you do one thing and suddenly you're vacuuming. And it's the empty an ashtray syndrome. Anything. I thought if I just do something, and next thing you know, yeah, I'm making a movie and doing a show. And that it's been incredible. But it's hard. It's hard to get the first and move and do anything. It's hard.
Well, what if it were easy?
What if it were easy?
I mean, what if we told ourselves it was easy? And that, for me, opens up a whole realm of things that I don't have to get through. But Allison, we are taught, oh, beginning stuff is hard.
Yes.
Going off to New York out of Kansas to be an actress, oh, that's hard. Nobody knows you. You don't know anybody. Are you crazy? But I was raised so naively. I was probably at a level 14 years of age when I left at 27, right? I just went, I'm going to go be a movie star. And I'm a big believer in naivete because you don't plug into all that fear, and doubt. Fear and doubt is never going to.
Sometimes you just go, yeah. It's like I don't know enough to know I'm not supposed to be doing this.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think that's how I started stand-up. I was doing stand-up for like months as a teenager before someone said, that's really hard. Sorry. I did it anyway. It was like, well, this seems like the thing I should be doing. And sometimes things do. They sort of fall in place. Now, of course, if I have to start, you were at a Comic-Con, you were just in London Comic-Con, you were at this event, you do all these fabulous events. And I bring this up because this is how we wound up talking. And I said, you got to come back on the show.
Oh, yeah.
You were at the London Comic-Con, which was huge because they had
100,000 people. 100,000 people.
So I have this friend Barnaby and Mark in England. They lived in Brighton and Hove actually, and they had tickets like since forever for the London Comic-Con. And I was in bed, getting ready to go to bed. This is one of those things. Oh, Barnaby sent a message. What does he say? he's on the train to London. He says, "Okay, it's totally crazy. We've had these tickets ready, but they canceled London Comic Con like twice, and a bunch of people who was coming from before, and then all the new people said we're hearing stories that people are there with tickets and they're not even getting in, and it's just
That's
a
true.
cluster, and it's really crazy and it's really crowded, and we're freaking out. Like, are we not going to get in? We've got our tickets. Can you call Dee Wallace? Do you know her? And she's there." And I went, "Dude, what time is it there?" And he goes, "It's morning here." I go, "Well, I'll email her." I said, "But she's probably getting ready to set up her table to do the autograph thing." I don't know if he's checking her email. So I'm like, "Hi, it's Allison. I have these friends." And then you answered me.
Of course I answered you. I mean, if there was any way I was going to be able to help, I was in, you
And the next thing
know.
I know, I'm getting another business partner. And I finally said, "Oh, well, this is," so I go to sleep. I wake up in the middle of the night, to pee. And I look at it's like, Barney's like, "She called me." I and
Yeah.
they came in, they saw your panel. They had more. I said, "You better buy 3 or 4 everything she's selling after that
Oh,
here."
stop
I
it.
You better be not. They said, "Oh yes, anything she wants." But they had so much fun. They love you so much. They already loved you before, but they
They
really
were
love you
great
now.
guys, great guys. Yeah. And it was, I went to my manager, he went to the manager of the con, which usually is very easy. But this one is so big and I didn't know him personally,
It was 100,000. It
So,
was crazy. It was all over the news. The London Comic Con just like
yeah.
blew. It was nuts.
So my manager just said, look, Dee, just have them call you when they get here. And you can get on the phone and say they're my guests. So that's what we did. And they just walked right in.
Absolutely. They were in shock. I was
It's
amazed.
always know who you know, right?
Oh yeah, no. It was amazing. You do a lot. Do you like doing the cons? I mean, I'm
I
off to a
do.
thing. I'm heading out to Fanboy in Knoxville this weekend, so I rather enjoy some of them. You like them because you
I
have a
do.
Scream Queen history with all the scary movies. You get a lot of those people.
I do. I get a lot of ET people also. ET, Cujo, the Howling, the Frighteners, and Critters. Those are the big ones. Um, and I love hearing the stories. I have so many heartwarming stories from people that have watched ET and had their lives changed. And just, I just get up every day, Allison, and I say, okay, today my intention is to be love and put out love to everybody that I meet. And I'm calling in all my angels of love to bring it back to me. And that's pretty much what my day's like. They come up to the table and we have some moments of love and share some stories. And I do. I really, I think it would be painful if you didn't like it.
I've thought about that. I've been to some where I've sat with other celebrities who didn't really like doing them. I don't know if they wanted the cash, somebody talked them into it, but they're saying they didn't. And I thought, that's why, just because they're days. You're sitting there for days with
Yeah,
thousands of people coming up to thought, wow, if you didn't like doing this, that would be bad. That would not be fun at all.
absolutely. And, they worked us at that con from 9 to 7 every day.
Holy moly.
Yeah. Couldn't go back to your room because we had to take a bus from where we were staying to the convention hall.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So,
I mean,
there
I've
was
done
no
more.
escaping.
I did Schiller one time with Charlotte Stewart, or Miss Beadle from the show, and it was so crowded that they had. We said, "Is the air conditioning broken?" No, the air conditioning wasn't broken. There was just literally so many people in the room it couldn't cool it
Yeah.
down. So we took turns. Said, "Okay, I'm up," and I get up, leave, go fight my way through the lobby, get up to the hotel room, and just go in the hotel room and open a window and go.
Yeah.
For like a few minutes, a little water on the face, and then go back down and go, "Your turn," and she goes, and at
I
least
think
we could. It's crazy.
I think we're doing an ET reunion possibly at Chiller this year. Me
Wow.
and
But
the two boys.
I do like doing them. I like talking to the people. The stories I hear and the
Yeah.
people I meet are lovely. And the
Yeah.
Little House fans are very lovely. And
Oh,
I like
yeah.
the stories they tell. So it's where the ET, okay, I told you the ET house is over. It's It's over there. It's up the street from me.
Hi.
And so it's like the number of people go, can you drive me up to the ET house so we can stand in the driveway and do that? And they did, yes.
Whatever rocks your boat, babe.
Right?
You know,
How many
I
years has it been since ET? How many years?
40. This is the 40th anniversary. We
My
just did the
God.
big red carpet thing at Man's Chinese, which is now Turner Classic Movies owns it.
Isn't it the 35th anniversary of Critters as well?
Yeah, and some anniversary of the hell. Everything's got an anniversary.
40th
I'm
of the
either
Howling.
old
40th
or
of the
I'm
Howling.
iconic. I'm older or I'm iconic.
Well, Little House on the Prairie's 50th is 2024. We're literally in
Wow.
planning meetings for like events already are starting for 2024. But yeah, you've got it's 40th of the Howling, 35th of Critters, 40th of ET.
I mean, somebody sent me a thing last week. It's some anniversary of the Frighteners. And the Frighteners, well, of course, the Frighteners came after ET, so not quite as old as ET, but
Well, now, how old is The Hills Have Eyes?
it's older. It's the first thing. It's the first movie I did, so the
And
original, of course.
it's so amazing. And I was reading a quote, and I think it was Wes Craven or something saying about that horror movies don't create fear; they sort of help you deal with fear, that people
Yeah.
overcome fear.
If
Because
you,
you've done so many scary movies, but you're all about light and healing and love. And then
I know, it's
the
weird.
blood and the
I do spend half my life doing horror films and the other half of my life teaching people how to heal themselves from their fear. So it works for me, babe. It works for me, but that's true. If you Google positive effects of horror films or something like that, you will see all the positive things it does for anxiety, for
Mhm.
your brain, which is why Disney, of course, every Disney film has a horribly scary character in it because kids can sit in the safety of their home with mommy and daddy and learn how to deal with fear. Well, we're doing the same thing when we go to a movie.
Well, that was the ancient fairy tales. When you look at Little Red Riding Hood and the Wolf, the really,
Yeah,
really old fairy tales always had something dragons, terrible, terrible things, and
horrible.
Baba Yaga and witches and stuffing people in ovens. And you had the things, and it was that the kids overcome it. People say, "What are these gory fairy tales?" Because that's how they were designed. Children would say, tell me about the boogeyman under the bed. Tell me about the scary witch."
Right.
And then, oh, and the kids get away. Yeah. And it was how they overcome fear and anxiety.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy to read on the internet what positive things watching horror films do for you.
I'm so
So
glad
I
because
feel like I'm helping the world, Alice.
it's a public service that you're
The
doing.
public service.
You're doing a public service. You're in. What have you got? Like 9 things coming out. I just read. Are you in the new Monsters movie? I just read you're in the new Monsters.
I have a voiceover in the new
Really?
Monsters. You know, I've done 5 films for Rob. I adore Rob Zombie. And if he calls and asks me to do something, I go, okay. So he called and asked me to do this voiceover of this newscaster. And I said, sure, Rob, can I do it in my closet? And he said, well, do it and let me listen to it. And he said, yeah, that works. Sounds great. So
Yeah,
I have a
in
lot
the
of
modern age,
professional
folks.
equipment, that I work with.
Do you have the whole like little studio in the closet
I
with the phone?
Somehow that sounds kind of racy, this little studio in the closet. No, I don't really have a studio, but I have a top-notch mic and it's very soundproof and it works.
Because this is the new thing for people watching all actors now. If they do any voiceover or even any kind, everybody's got these like little mini studios often in a closet where
Yeah.
sometimes we'll have the whole thing with the foam on the walls and the ceiling and the thing and the mics. But I have the backdrops because I do stand-up shows in the living room. So I have different, very lovely, colorful backdrops. And I have the laptop thing. It's on a stand. So we have the camera thing, and I got the special extra Wi-Fi and a bunch of microphones and lights. We all have this stuff in our houses now because we're
It,
producing all this stuff out of the living room.
well, because of necessity, we had to adapt, right?
And we amazingly did. Now the new book, because you are, how many books is this now? Seven
Six,
books?
six
Six.
books, including the children's book is 7.
This
Yeah.
one's book 7. So this one's called Born. This
Born,
is,
giving birth to a new you. Yeah.
that's a tall order to give birth to a new you, but I think that's really the theme of what we're doing now, of having to go through these last 2 years and then coming out as like, well, okay, we did this phase of the pandemic and this, and now we're in this other phase. And well, now what do? We go out, we go back in, we come
Yeah.
back out again, we do this, we go to that. How do we? So many things have changed. I look around Los Angeles, I see how many restaurants, nightclubs, business have closed. How
Yeah.
many places I performed? Oh, wait, we're not doing that. Yes, we're closed now. We're gone. And things that went away. So many people I know have moved. They've moved away to go take care of elderly parents. And it's things that they were changing because people get older and move, go take care of their parents. And Los Angeles, places closed. But like, it seemed to me as if things that normally would change over, say, 5, 10 years in normal world changed in like 1 year. Stuff where I would have said, "Oh, I remember such and such restaurant. Wait, that was 10 years ago. That was
Yeah.
when like 6 months ago. What the heck?" And everything kind of went whoosh, and it
Yeah.
was
We're
really
in a
weird.
time warp. We're in a
Yeah,
time warp for sure.
we are
But
in a
this
time warp,
is,
and I'm looking at doing stuff differently, and I have new stuff coming up. I'm going, what do I do? What's the new thing? What's the new thing? I did a new thing when I was 40, and I did like a new thing at 50. What's the new thing?
yeah,
So
well,
this is
born was my new thing, one of my new things. And a lot of people don't know I'm a channel, I'm a clairaudient channel, and I've had a healing practice for 40 years.
oh
So
yeah,
I
oh
have
yeah. And when you say
clients
clairaudient,
all over the country.
that's like
And
people say clairvoyant, but you're clairaudient, which is different.
yeah, I
You
hear
hear it.
messages. Yeah.
Yes.
And so when they said write the book, I knew exactly what my channel was talking about, because after thousands and thousands of private sessions, people hear it, they study it, they read it, but they don't live it, Allison.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what Born is. It is literally the formula of what to live to manifest any subject in your life that you want. And I know it works because I live it. Look at my IMDb.
Right. I was going
Yeah.
to say, look at your IMDb with the 9 movies. It was 263 TV movies and film credits, but you have like 9 right now in production or post production.
Yeah.
And look at you. You look fabulous. So clearly you're doing something right.
Hey.
In reading about you and reading, I downloaded Born right away. You talked about that you have had this feeling of channel, these audience, the clairaudient, the receiving the words, the messages since you were a child. You've always
Oh
had this.
yeah.
This is not something you didn't wake up last week and go, I hear this is in now. This is just something you've had. There's people that they'll jump on any bandwagon. You've been doing this since you were a kid. You've always had
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. And most kids do. Almost, no, all kids get messages. We call them their imaginary friends or their imagination. All kids, until they get to a certain age, still have that connection. All the information's hanging out right above our head. And a kid is still open to it. And then society teaches us that we shouldn't be, and we close it down, and we don't hear our highest guidance. So yeah, I got messages about my grandmother being in peril at her house when I was 8 years old, I think 7 or 8. And my mom drove me over there at 3 a.m. in the morning and the cat had gotten up on the stove and turned all the burners on, but the gas hadn't lit. So the house was filling up with gas. And, my dad visited me after his suicide through a light that came out of my mirror. I mean, I know this all sounds woo, but in my life, it was just, yeah, there's another thing that happened. If I was doing a horror film about my dad visiting me, it would have been frightening. And when it happened, Allison, it was as natural and peaceful, and it was just, oh yeah, there's dad, and he's telling me it's not my fault and go on and be happy. My job is to live a happy life, which, by the way, is the message of everybody on the other side. Is we don't care. Once we cross over, we don't care what happened. We just want you to be happy. So go on and be happy. Live your life.
Well, it's just amazing. It's like when I was a kid, I found out my mother had this friend, one of her best friends, Gertrude. And back then, I know we're talking, my mother was born in the 20s. And this was people didn't talk about, oh, yes, someone was psychic or someone had messages like, it didn't. It was just, it was a thing that if it happened, you sure as heck didn't tell anybody because they'd have you locked up or sent away or something. And it basically was, no, that doesn't happen. No, that doesn't exist. Oh, except for Gertrude. Everybody knows about Gertrude. Yeah, I mean, well, Gertrude, but don't say anything in front of Gertrude. But yes, and there was the thing, Gertrude didn't discuss it. She was embarrassed by it because she grew up at a time when it was like a terrible thing. But if she called my mother to check and see if she was okay and said no one is any married, you took it seriously.
Attention. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the phone rang and it was just like, oh yes, well, what'd you see? What'd you hear? Because she wasn't kidding. And there are people, and it was since early childhood. And so you have this and that, and you've, as you said, you've spread it around. You've been talking about it in these books. Now, definitely, as you said, it's creating a new you. I think we're all ready to create a new us. I think we need to create a new world, create a new city, create a new us now. I'm game.
And if you think about it, we're all in every moment creating a new us. It's just most of us are not doing it consciously, and most of us are still doing it negatively.
Now, we talked about that when you were on here before. We even talked about people saying, well, what do you want? That you'd sit them down and say, well, what do you want? And how are you doing that? Well, I want this, I want that. Well, what are you telling yourself and doing about that? But too often find people don't know what they want. I noticed in Born, right, where you talk about is something as simple as making ice. Use the example going, well, you want ice, you put water in the tray, you put it in the fridge, you don't put mud in there, you won't get ice. But if you're like me, it's, yeah, I want ice. No, I changed my mind. I think I want a hot cup of coffee. No, maybe I'll have a chocolate milk. We don't know what we want. What do you do if you feel as if you have no idea what you want and this is a major problem?
There are reasons that you don't let yourself know what you want.
Aha.
And almost everything goes back to our childhood. From the time we're conceived to the time we're 8 years old, our brains are totally completed as far as our self-esteem, how we see ourselves in the world, and how we see the world seeing us. By 8 years old, done. So whatever you're taught or whatever is modeled in front of you during conception to 8, you go, well, that's the way the world works. And if you watched parents who were unable to make decisions and afraid to make decisions and afraid they were going to be wrong, then you went, that's the way the world works. That's how I have to function. I mean, a good example is my grandfather was a very vital CPA, owned his own business. He was a dynamo in Kansas City. But by the time I was a little girl, he had had a series of strokes. So all I saw was my grandmother taking care of him, feeding him, changing him. My dad, as you know, was a severe alcoholic. So I saw my mom going to work and taking care of my dad. So my little girl said, oh, that's the way the world works. Women take care of men.
Oh, yeah.
So it took me a lot of relationships before I realized I didn't have to have that belief anymore. And that belief indeed was not serving me. So I tell all my clients, whatever subject you're working on, sit down and write out everything you were taught or modeled about that subject by 8 years old, because our little kids are running the show.
Oh,
And
yeah. So
they're
if
trying to keep
speaking,
us safe. They're trying to keep us
right.
safe,
So
but
all of
they're
those
not
things,
allowing us to move ahead.
if taking risks is bad, if speaking up is bad, if showing emotion is bad, all of those things are going to be hampered and stymied for the rest of
You
your life.
bet. You bet. And that little person inside of you goes, no, you can't be a strong woman. Remember, God doesn't like you. No, you can't make too much money. I can hear my grandmother still say, they're the rich people. We're the good people.
Oh, whoa, that
Well,
direct, that just flat out.
well, yeah. And most of the South and Midwest during my age, that's what they believed and that's what we were taught. So then I get 32 years later, I'm doing ET and I'm shot to stardom and starting to make all this money. And I go, oh, I'm one of them. Oh, God's not going to love me. People aren't going to love me. They're going to judge me. I'm not supposed to have all this. And you really have to bring all that to your consciousness and go, little D, we're not going to believe that anymore. Can you trust me and love me enough to reparent you and teach you a new belief that's going to really empower who we are? So the more you work with your kids, I have seen over and over, and I have a lot of stories in Born about it. You just break through. You break through to whatever your walls are.
So this is the new theme. Now, the book, as you said, you were told to write the book. Now
Yeah.
you've written the other books. Why do they feel this is the book?
Because it's the formula, basically. It's literally a step-by-step formula for creating and manifesting relationships, money, success, health. Because once you know the formula, Allison, you apply it to anything, right?
And we talked about the last time you were on that so many psychological games we play on ourselves of telling ourselves. We talked about like losing things. That something as simple as like losing like your purse or something in the house. Half the time it's in the house, it's misplaced. I mean, I always tell myself, no, it's not lost, it's misplaced, because I know I'm going to find it in like 10 minutes. It's ridiculous. But we say, oh, it's lost, it's lost, it's lost. And it could be sitting in front of you and you're not going to see it now. And if you say
Exactly.
it's not lost, I'm about to, then you go, oh, it's
Just
there.
say, I know where it is.
I know where it is.
Where it is. Because
And then
your
you like
brain,
remember,
go ahead.
you remember, then it makes you remember.
Well, it makes you remember because your brain thinks in pictures. So if you say, I don't know where it is, your brain continues to not allow you to see where it is. If you say, I know where it is, I know right where it is, my guy, he just laughs because he'll say, oh my God, I lost. I say, I know where it is. 10 minutes later, he comes, he goes, all right, I found it. It's almost a joke in the house now, right?
Well,
But it's true. I mean, I teach this work through spirituality, but it's also brain science. They're one and the same.
How often we say we lose things and things are missing in plain sight. It's become invisible. I mean, because we do that. We do. How many times do we say something's lost? We look all over the house and then we go back again and we find it and we go, I swear I just looked here.
Yeah. And one of my things is, oh my God, I don't know how to do this about technical stuff. So now I've started saying, no, I know how to do this. I know. And little by little, I'm surprising myself by figuring things out technologically on my own. It's
And
crazy.
it's you can
Crazy how it
learn
works.
things. It's so amazing what one can learn because that's a big one. Oh, I couldn't learn how to do this. So you go, well, if you don't know how to do it, there's classes and there's tutorials on YouTube, and then you could learn. Oh no, I could learn. You couldn't learn, or oh, I can't learn. I'm over a certain age, and I'm like, oh, good heavens.
Oh, geez.
I've met people who say I can't learn how to use a new phone. I go, how old are you? They go 47. I'm like, oh, good Lord, I'm 60. I got all this like tech. I, it's you can learn. I found that out. I've turned around and gone, well, I don't know how to do this. God, I bet there's some sort of like tutorial if I click around here. And then half an hour later, I've always said I can learn any software with 30 minutes, the tutorial, and a pot of coffee, and then I know it. It's
Well, you're a smart cookie too, but it does work. But you see, there's that choice again. You have to make the choice of wanting to learn. You have to make the choice that says, no, I'm not going to say I can't. I'm going to say I am. And therein lies the difference between how much you create and how much you don't.
it's the stop thinking that it's impossible. Um, the last one, the book Bright Light was the one you talked about last time.
Yeah. Bright Light is actually my autobiography through
Right.
all the big films and big directors that I worked with and the spiritual lessons I learned along the way.
And I mean, you mentioned your grandfather committing suicide. You've had a lot
My
of
dad.
loss. You've
Yeah.
had a lot of loss in your life. I mean, there's the
Yeah.
grandfather, and then your father, and then
No,
your husband was so
not my
young.
grandfather, not my grandfather.
Okay.
My dad and my brother,
Oh wow,
my
wow,
little
wow!
brother.
And your brother,
Yeah.
and then your husband died so young too.
Yes, my husband died at 55.
That is an awful lot in anyone's life. That's a lot.
Yeah, but who hasn't? Who hasn't? Who doesn't have some drama story about their life? But what's important is what we do with that story. Do we keep telling it? Do we keep defining ourselves through that story? Or do we start creating ourselves in spite of that story to be someone who's happy and successful and embraces life? It's what we do with it. That's what's important.
And I have a choice of photo. Excellent. And that seems to be the thing that you've done, as you said, just the putting out of love and the creating of love and the receiving love and the putting out of light, like I said,
Yeah.
as something as simple as an autograph show, just accepting all of that love that's there.
Well, yeah, because if you don't accept it, it's got to come back to you. Love and creation are like a big hug. I hug you, you hug me, it happens at the same time. I give and I receive at the same time. That's how the creation process works. So the more you give, a great example, I was at Starbucks for a meeting the other day, and there was a lady who came in, and she was standing and looking at the menu, and I could tell she was homeless. And I said to the guy that I was having a meeting with, I think that lady's homeless. And she obviously decided she couldn't get anything, but she went up to ask if she could have a glass of water. And the woman behind the counter pointed her to the corner where the water was. And she went over to get her water. And I said, hang on just a minute. And I got some money out of my purse and I went over and I said, sweetheart, are you kind of down on your luck a little? She said, oh, yes, ma'am, I am. I said, well, I want you to have this and I want you to have a better day. And you go get something to make yourself feel real good. So she left. And about 5 minutes, a guy picked up his coffee and he came over and he said, I saw what you did for that woman and it really moved me. And I'm going to go out and find somebody to do it for. And that's what it's about, just passing it on, because I'm telling you, Allison, the money always comes back to me tenfold. It's crazy, from the craziest places, but it always comes back to me tenfold.
Well, and I think that absolutely is a thing I've seen. If people who are trying to be terribly grasping and stingy, like, well, I don't want to part with that extra nickel, it doesn't seem to really work. You can kind of let go of the grip a little. There'll be more.
Yeah, well, that's your level of trust in the universe, right? I love the story in Conversations with God where Neil Walsh says, you're walking down the street and you see a homeless guy at the end of the street. You reach in your pockets, you got a nickel and a $5 bill. And you go, well, I can't just give him a nickel, and shit, I don't want to give him my $5. By that time, you're past him, and it wasn't his moment. It was your moment. It was your moment to know how abundant you are. And in that moment of knowing, you magnetize more to you.
It became about you, and you're like, nickel, $5, nickel.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It just feels good to give.
You mentioned the love place. What is the love place?
Well, I teach everybody to find a love place, and it's so easy. It's anything that makes you smile and makes your heart open the minute you think about it. I go to my doggy freedom. There I am. Or Gabby when she was a little girl, or Hawaii, my place in Hawaii that I love. That love place and that feeling of love is what creates everything. If you want more money, you got to love money. If you want a great relationship, you can't keep not wanting the asshole you had the last time, right? You've got to love the relationship you want. You've got to love success. You've got to love your body and not the disease that might be afflicting it. You've got to love the health, which is, I talk a lot in Born about the 0 point, and starting from the 0 point of creation instead of fixing and struggling and trying. Just create.
Now, I like that because we so often go, well, I have this thing that I do and I want to keep doing this one thing. So how do I fix this? Well, maybe just do a different thing.
Yeah. Bingo. Push the easy button.
Well, and that's a thing I know with writing, with comedy. People will say, well, I got to hang on to this joke, this one joke. It's like, well, that there are other jokes. And that's the thing with writing. Sometimes we want to, because when I wrote my autobiography, we get a chance, well, I really want to hang on to these pages. Maybe, or maybe not, or maybe you just want to set that aside and write a completely different 10 pages and see what happens.
Yeah.
And not to be afraid to put out your writing or your comedy or whatever, that, oh, then I'll have done that, and then I'll have to write more. Yes, you'll write more. You'll write something else. It keeps
Well,
flowing.
that's what it keeps flowing. That's another thing I claim every day is I'm claiming the flow. Just keep everything in flow for me. Airplane rides, baggage.
We're like, okay, see, even in got in at 3:30 and the bags are missing and the makeup, but you're still like, okay, well, that happened.
Well, but I sat down because this never happens to me, Allison. I fly probably twice a month at least.
Mhm.
Never, my flights are never late. They're never canceled. Bags are all, and everything happened yesterday. And I tracked it back to one of the guys at the convention whose everything was canceled. They lost his bags. He didn't get his bags back till 2 hours before he left for the airport to go home. Right. And he was saying, all right, I'm going to get mad as hell. And I'm going to say, I'm not going to take it anymore. And universe, you have to listen to me.
Here.
You can't create with anger like that. You've got to go to the love place.
I once had the bags go missing until I had to catch the flight to go home. And I had to give a speech, but it was marvelous because there's a whole group of women at the conference, and they said they went door to door in the hotel and said, okay, who's your size, and anybody got your size shoes? And I wore somebody's slip and somebody's shoes and somebody's dress and somebody's jewelry. I looked great. I had an item of clothing, somebody had pantyhose. I wore something from everyone on my floor of the hotel, and they were all happy to loan it to me, and I got up in everybody else's clothes. Great speech. And then when I went and changed and then went down the hall and gave everybody back the dress and slip with their panties.
Oh, I love it.
I put my jeans back on and went to my floor.
That's adapting right there. And do you see how much love came at you from all those people that loaned you all that stuff? That's an awesome.
Right, too, because in the speech I was like, hi, you know who you are. The dress, yeah, thank you. The shoes are very comfortable. Yes. It was like, we just like, okay, how do we make this work? What do we do? Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, you got to tell that story a lot. That's great.
I had like 6 different people's stuff on, but it was like it worked, and then it became funny, and we did it. It just, but yeah, you go with things. I mean, there's things that are going to happen you can't always control. So then it's like, well, okay, that happened, and now what? But you definitely go through. Okay, how many things you have coming out? Okay, you're the voice of the newscaster in the Munsters, and you have multiple movies in pre-production and post-production and happening.
Yeah.
What is the next thing coming out? I can't even keep track of them all.
Well, the next thing is an incredibly, awesomely weird psychological horror film called The Nix, which is what I was in San Diego Comic-Con. My gosh, the guy from TV Guide just flipped over this film. I look so bad, Allison. I got no makeup on, my hair is pulled back in a ponytail and all straggly. I mean, she's crazy. This character is crazy. And I loved playing every minute of her. And then I've got a great recurring role on A Deeper Look, which again, oh my God, everybody is going to love this show. And I play a psychic, and they hired me for the psychic without knowing.
They didn't know?
They didn't know I was a Clairaudience channel. No.
So, like, no work actually required. It's the Nix. Okay, where do we see this?
Well, you can see A Deeper Look.
Deeper Look is where?
I believe it's on Peacock, but it's not out yet.
Oh, okay. This is going to be
nothing's out yet. Nothing.
This is all the not even released stuff you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And
they didn't know about you and the whole audio voice thing, and they had to play a psychic. So basically, this is like no effort.
It was all scripted, and it's a true story. It's so out there and amazingly crazy. Oh my God, you guys are going to love it. A deeper look. Remember that. And then I'm going back east to do a film, horror film, where I play a biker chick. I got to figure out, Allison, how can I do this hair as a biker chick?
I like that hair as a biker chick. Biker
No,
chick has good hair.
I can't wear my hair like this. It's a biker chick. Come on. And then I can't really talk about it, but I'm going to recur on another really fabulous series that I just booked. So it's just a busy time. It's a busy time of creating.
But it's that flow. It's when one thing happens and another thing happens, and you do this one thing, and then and then this thing. And once you start, it's like it never rains but it pours.
Yeah.
You start one, and then then you're doing everything.
Yeah, and then part of me went, "Oh, I'm tired. Oh, there's too much." And I went, "Okay, what the heck is this about?" Right? And I remembered when I was 7 years old, Allison, 7, if I had a test the next day, I would make my mom let me go to bed at 7 o'clock so I could get enough sleep to do a good job. What 7-year-old kid does that?
Did it even?
I mean, that's weird.
Did it help?
It ended up being a past life thing. That once I got all the information and everything, I went, oh, so I was subconsciously carrying this fear in me that if I didn't get enough sleep, I was going to die, basically.
Oh, heavens. Not just flunk the test. If you get enough sleep, you would die.
Yeah. So anything that was important, I had to get sleep. I had to get sleep. So now I'm laughing because last night I got to bed at 3:30 and woke up at 7:30 and I went, what the hell? I could sleep till 10:30. And I went back and kind of lay there for a while. And finally my brain went, just get up and take the dog for a walk, right? So we did. Freedom and I went on our gratitude walk at 8:45 this morning. But I'm sure at 8 o'clock tonight, I'm going to be toast. But it's so interesting. That's what I mean, how our subconscious creates us making decisions around things that we're not conscious of. It's pretty crazy and amazingly powerful when you learn how to redirect it.
I love that. I love a 7-year-old going, I have to go to bed early. Who did it? 7-year-old.
I know.
That should have been a big sign that the 7-year-old's asking you to go to bed early. Something might not be quite right.
I mean, I'm sure my parents were going, ooh, lucky us. And I always got great grades.
I was just thinking at least you got the good grades out of it. Okay, good.
My mom used to laugh at my younger brother. He'd come home from a test and he'd say, I think I did really good, Mom. He'd get a C- or a D, and I'd come home and go, I don't know, Mommy. I don't think I did very good. And I'd always get an A.
Classic.
Yeah, classic. For sure.
All right. Well, this is amazing. I can't believe it. Out of time. How are we out of time? All right. Thank you again. Okay. The website. Tell people where to find you and where to find the book.
I am deewallace.com, or if you want me to sign it, go there, or you can get all my books on Amazon.
Excellent. And the next things, watch out for the Knicks and for
a deeper look.
A deeper look. Okay, we're going to keep an eye out for those too. Oh, you're always doing stuff. You're always doing stuff. Well, get some rest. Not like you'll die if you don't get sleep, but get some rest after this day.
I love doing your show because it's like hanging out with a girlfriend when we're having sleepovers.
That's how I like to do it. It's
Oh,
just
I love it.
talk about it. Yeah, like
So,
normal humans.
thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. I already downloaded the book, but I'll probably have to get a signed copy too. So, all right,
I'll send it to you. It'll be
okay,
my gift, Alice.
all right. See ya. See
All
you
right,
soon.
baby.
Thank you.
Bye,
Okay,
everybody.
bye. And this has been the Allison Argram Show, and I'm Allison Argram. Thank you.
I found my way